program. For our next story, we move over to the United States, where Kilmar Abrego Garcia, the Salvadorian man wrongly deported earlier this year, has been released from jail in Tennessee and is now on his way to Maryland. He was brought back to the US in June to face human smuggling charges after being mistakenly deported to El Salvador in March, despite a court order blocking his removal. Abrego Garcia reunited with his family on Friday after more than 160 days apart. He must remain in his brother's custody in Maryland under strict release conditions, including reporting to pretrial services and avoiding contact with MS-13 members. His lawyers say he is still far from safe, warning that ICE detention or deportation to a third country remains possible. Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem has condemned his release, calling him a danger, while judges have ruled he must be allowed to prepare his defense in Maryland. Abrego Garcia has pleaded not guilty to the charges. We're now joined by Raymond Vickery, who is a former U.S. Assistant Secretary of Commerce. He joins us live from Washington, D.C. to discuss this story further. Raymond, this story, as we have said previously, has been going on for 160 days now. And finally, Kilmar Abrego Garcia has gone back to his family. However, he is not out of the woods yet, pleading not guilty to charges that he has been pushed upon by the Trump administration. Your thoughts, however, about how this situation might develop and the fact that he is indeed back home after being held for so long in that CCOT prison in El Salvador, Raymond?
Well, thanks very much for having me, Thomas. You know, democracy requires more than just voting. It requires an adherence to the rule of law, and it requires a respect for the individual and the person. As our Declaration of Independence says, all men are created equal and endowed with certain inalienable rights. In order for there to be order either nationally in a democracy or internationally, there has to be an adherence to the rule of law. Unfortunately, some nations explicitly have not recognizing that in the past, Russia, China, and other authoritarians. The United States has traditionally, for almost 250 years, with lapses, been a beacon in the rule of law and adherence to the value of the individual. Unfortunately, President Trump and his administration have taken a full frontal assault on those basic values of a democracy in the United States. And one of the areas in which they've done that has been with Abrego Garcia, Kilmar Abrego Garcia, whom they first designated as a member of a gang and said that he had to be deported him mistakenly, were ordered by the Supreme Court of the United States to bring him back, and finally, with some hesitation, got him back, but said that he would never see the light of day again, doubling down on the assault on the rule of law. Fortunately, the third branch of government, the judicial branch, has held in this instance and said, no, you do not have proof. You have not provided the man due process, and has ordered him released and returned to his family, awaiting for a due process trial to have a decision on trumped up charges that he was trafficking, evidently trumped up because there's nothing more than a traffic stop that we know of to support this allegation. So this is a very, very serious situation, because not only has the Trump administration doubled down once, they've doubled down twice, and now they're doing it again. What they say is that regardless of what the judge in Tennessee has ruled, that they're going to deport him to Uganda. Fortunately, the court's order gives a 3-day period in which Mr. Abrego Garcia can seek the intervention again of the court. and try to provide due process. But make no mistake about it, this is a part of the Trump administration's attempt to change the form of government in the United States. One from checks and balances, separations of power, to an authoritarian approach in which law does not matter, but it is the will of the person at the top, namely President Trump and his administration, to be able to decide who has liberty and who has not. We have every expectation in the United States that our system will hold, but this is a very difficult situation in which we cry out for help to other democracies to support the rule of law and basic human values.
Raymond, just briefly, as we're running out of time, obviously you've said that the Trump administration has doubled down on this case multiple times and even spoken to Nayib Bukele in the White House about the individual. So this is a hugely high-profile case. Is this a image-related issue now for Donald Trump, that if this man does now walk free, Donald Trump's administration in its entirety will see this as a loss?
Well, it's certainly an image issue for President Trump. He wants to be seen as the great man, the person who decides things. His approach is that of a real estate developer making a deal on Trump Tower or some other real estate, that he decides he must come out a winner. And if it is shown that the American system is not that it is one of checks and balances, of the rule of law, of an independent judiciary, then his status is diminished not only to his adherents, but in his own mind. And he can't stand that. We've seen that time and time again as he seeks retribution against any center of power, any person who would try to rein in this image which he has created himself of the decider, the authoritarian, who doesn't need other people to help him.
Raymond Vickery, thank you very much for joining us here on NewsX World. Always a pleasure to speak to you. We now move over to Europe once again for a developing story where Spain is making significant progress in battling the wildfires that have devastated the country this month, burning through a record 403,000 hectares of land. While 13 fires remain active, officials say the situation is improving with fewer fires and weaker winds. Let's hear what the Director of Civil Protection had to say.
Bajar la guardia porque estamos en un momento determinante con la climatología que todavía nos continúa siendo favorable para acabar de una vez por todas con el terrible sufrimiento que han provocado estos incendios. Hay ya muchos incendios controlados, estabilizados, pero todavía seguimos teniendo 13 incendios forestales activos en 3 comunidades autónomas y por lo tanto vamos a seguir con esta monitorización, con este seguimiento permanente 24 horas al día de la evolución de cada.
The worst hit regions have been Castile and Leon, and also Galicia, as firefighters continue to fight the blazes. Political tension has emerged over accusations of mishandling of the response. Meanwhile, in Portugal, a firefighter has become the 4th fatality in the emergency. With wildfires worsening across Europe, experts warn that this intense fire season is just a reflection of larger global trends. Well, that's all that we have time for. We will continue to bring you more news updates from around the world. Thank you.